Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Investments in the riverfront, convention center, and more tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by Jennifer Oswald, the interim president and CEO of Downtown Memphis Commission. Thanks for being here. Along with Kevin Kane, CEO of the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thanks for being with us again. Along with Bill Dries, senior reporter with the Memphis Daily News. So we're going to talk tonight a lot about the things that are sort of true to, right in your heart, and the things that you guys worked with in terms of the convention center, announcement a week and a half ago about the riverfront, the Pinch District, and so on. But a bigger question to start, and I'll start with you, Kevin. Why does this focus on downtown investment, all the time, the money, the effort? Why downtown, and to a lesser extent, why Midtown? Because we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on there.
Well, first of all, great cities are built on great downtowns. Every community, large or small, has wonderful suburbs, and we certainly have wonderful suburbs, and we have wonderful communities around Shelby County. Great destinations are built on great downtowns, and we are building a great downtown. I think if you look at the assets and the pieces that have been put in place over the last 20 years, it's been transformational. And downtown is a place where people work, live, and play, and it really becomes everybody's shared neighborhood. I think I'm stealing your lines here, Jennifer, but it really is true. And obviously, from a tourism standpoint, it's a fact that most of our visitors end up in downtown Memphis, whether they're coming to visit Elvis Presley's Graceland or they're going to the casinos in Tunica. They end up in downtown Memphis on a visit to the Mid-South area. So, millions of people go to Beale Street, millions of people go to the river. So I think it's very key that we have focused on downtown, and we're finally fleshing out our riverfront.
And for you, Jennifer, the Downtown Memphis Commission, formerly known as Center City Commission, the investments that you all make or that you support are not just the investment from tourism. A lot of people do think of downtown as being a tourist destination, but you're also working with small businesses. You're working to get people to live there, all the kind of things that Kevin talked about. Why is that important? Why does the Downtown Memphis Commission exist for those issues?
Well, and that's what's making it more exciting for us is it's being attracted by both ends, tourism and residents. So we have over 1,200 new employees moving into downtown in the next year. We have over 2,000 new apartments coming online, and over the next 3 or 5 years, we expect near 5,000 between downtown and the medical district, which is part of downtown, just outside the core. So it's key that you have daytime and nighttime activity. So we want it to be vibrant all the time. So when the tourists are at Graceland, we still want it busy during the day with workers and people that live there. And for sure millennials, but we see every age range moving downtown. Retired folks, people in the heart of their career, and millennials. So we're excited by that.
All right, Bill.
So we're still kind of figuring out how the riverfront plan is going to take shape. Now that we've had the announcement that Brooks is looking at moving into the block on front between Union and Monroe, and those talks are ongoing. The riverfront plan as a whole, and that piece as well, involve a lot of money. Some of it is sales tax revenue captured in the TDZ, but walk me through how we raise this money, because it comes from a number of different pots, a number of different sources.
Who wants to? You want to try that?
I think that the best thing about the plan is that it can be compartmentalized and it's not in the full control of any one person. So it doesn't have to all be done by the city or a private developer. And there's interest from all different ends of the spectrum as well. And so all that money doesn't have to come from our philanthropic community. It can come from businesses who intend to make a profit on some aspect of it, as well as city and other government entities. We stand ready to offer any incentives that we're able to. They don't all make a good fit, but where we can.
Will there, as part of the oversight of the riverfront development and how it goes forward, will there be an enhanced fundraising role?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. And I think that's the beauty of some of the successful projects we've seen throughout the community over the last few years. It is a combination of public-private partnerships. The beauty of the riverfront and the beauty of the TDZ is that we're not taxing the local citizens. We're not hitting the general fund that makes obviously so many Memphians and residents of Shelby County very nervous. I mean, this wonderful vehicle called the Tourism Development Zone has been just a real godsend for us. It basically financed all of the Bass Pro improvements. It's done a number of other things within this community. Obviously, they're looking at the fairgrounds. You've talked about that on this show as one of these other opportunities. It completely transformed Elvis Presley's Graceland with a new hotel and a whole new revamped entertainment complex out there. So, and it's going to do the same thing along our riverfront and our convention center, which, by the way, is a very, very important piece of economic development for this community.
And you have some relatively recent TDZ revenue estimates, because at the outset of saying we're going to renovate the convention center, we're going to put a new skin on it was what everybody talked about. The ballpark figure then had been something like $60 million. Well, that's not the case.
We're well beyond 60 million. And you know, what happened, fortunately, is the administration, the city administration, was doing a deep dive in the long-term projections for the Tourism Development Zone, along with the city hotel, motel, lodging taxes. They realized that there was more capacity there than they realized, that they'd ever anticipated to begin with. As a result of that, we're going to go from a paint up, fix up, spruce up of a 43-year-old building to really a total transformation of what the convention center is. And I will tell you that come September of 2019, if I blindfolded people who were familiar with the building and put them in our main exhibit hall or in our downstairs lobby or in what we call the South Hall now, or different aspects of the building, and I took the blindfold off of you, you would not know you were in the Memphis Cook Convention Center. That's how transformative it's going to be. It's going to have all the amenities of what you would expect in a 21st century convention facility. Hotel quality, lots of breakout meeting space, lots of casual areas for people to informally meet. That's the world that we live in today. And lots of connection to the outdoors. There's going to be, for the first time, beautiful outdoor vistas of the bridge, of Bass Pro, of the riverfront, and the mighty Mississippi River. We didn't have that prior to this, so it's really going to be a destination.
So is it an expansion of the overall square footage? Not dramatically.
It's not a major, there will be an expansion. There will be a minor expansion of square footage.
So people should not expect, people have been to Nashville and seen that huge kind of convention center. This is not that kind of thing in terms of the size and scale of it.
It's still the biggest building in Shelby County.
Yeah, right. No. So, and you've argued before whether that was a good idea to even think that way. That's not the direction that people are.
Quite honestly, you have to have the hotel capacity. You know, if we were going to triple the size of our convention center, number one, you better have the airlift. Number two, you better have hotel capacity. We're still trying to right size all those things. So I think for where Memphis is and where Memphis is going to grow over the next 10, 15, 20 years, and we're anticipating growth, we're not anticipating standing still, I think what we're doing with our convention center is spectacular. And I will say this, to build a brand new convention center the size of what we have today would probably cost north of $500, $600 million. Obviously, we don't have that kind of capacity within the TDZ or the bed tax to do that, but we are going to do something obviously more than $100 million, and it's going to be something that's going to be something that's going to serve our community well for generations to come.
And before I go back to Jennifer, the proposal that the mayor's office, the Riverfront Task Force, whatever the collection of people put forward for the TDZ, about 10 days ago now, was about a $550 million proposal. It's a very conceptual budget. That's the way it works with the TDZ. But most of that is either the TDZ money, which is money that would otherwise go to Nashville, as you said, and stay there, but instead comes back. A certain amount of philanthropic money, they're hoping, quite a bit, upwards of $200 million. But it's not based on, when you talk about these big projects, and we'll look at some of the pictures and some of the concepts of where an aquarium would go, a freshwater education center, all kinds of transformation out on Mud Island, making Mud Island open to the public. All those things, the bulk of it would not be me as a city resident paying more in property taxes.
That's right. And I think it's important to point out that, especially for our viewers, this is money that if someone watching would say, well, you know what, why don't we build a new jail, or why don't we build more parks, or why don't we improve our roads or our schools? This money is restricted. This TDZ money, you have to be a qualified use. That's the way the state set this up. These were basically the opportunity to take resources by economic development issues and create enhanced taxes for everyone, the state, local, everybody in between. So, and the same with the hotel, motel, bed tax. So it's not like people are saying, well, they're wasting money on aquariums or museums or tourism amenities. No, these are monies that otherwise would go back to Nashville, but they have a very qualified use, and unfortunately you can only use it for things like this.
Right, Jennifer, you were going to say.
I was just going to say that the plans for the convention center are attracting interest by hotel developers, and so along with the city, we're vetting a lot of that interest. And in addition to all the improvements at the convention center, these hoteliers are planning a lot more meeting space with, more than a normal hotel would have. So we think that it has drawn a lot of interest from that market.
And another part, before I go to Bill, another part of this is the Pinch District. And the Pinch District, which was, a very vibrant place back in the day, has been dead since the pyramid was, the FedEx Forum was built, other factors that came into it. So St. Jude announces a major expansion they're the biggest, probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest property owners in the Pinch District. We have some renderings that show some ideas. This is not the exact vision of it, of a combination of St. Jude uses and other private developers coming in. Your thoughts on that and the DMC role in terms of what's going on in the Pinch District?
Sure. Just to start off with, one of our entities, the CCDC, has funded an art project in the underpass that connects the convention center to the Pinch. So that's the first step, is creating that connectivity. And then we are talking with lots of people about different projects that'll happen pretty quickly in the Pinch.
From big to small.
From big to small, yes. Residential, hotel, mixed use, all to complement the St. Jude plans and the convention center plan.
You got to remember, you got St. Jude spending $3 billion. You've got Uptown and Harbortown, two spectacular neighborhoods to the north. You have a major investment of resources in the convention center immediately to the south. And the Pinch gets a little bit of a bad rap because it kind of fell into a kind of a no man's land for a while. Well, that's because the pyramid was dark for a decade.
Right.
And now you got Bass Pro that's attracting a few million people a year. So, and St. Jude has actually bought a lot of some of the real estate going into the Pinch District. What we had to develop really within the Pinch District is not that big of a footprint. It's very manageable. It's very doable.
Right. Bill.
So some of these ideas we've had before. The aquarium idea surfaced when the city was fielding offers that included Bass Pro Shops or was turning over ideas. I've seen, I think, maybe 5 different versions of a pedestrian bridge to the south tip of Mud Island from some point on the mainland here. The difference with this seems to be that, these are pieces that we'll take as we can take them, but it's a concept, which is a kind of a new thing for a city that loves studies and loves plans. So how have we gotten to this point in kind of our planning?
I think that there were just enough people who are interested in capitalizing on all the activity that's happening in various ends of our downtown and decided to support the concept plan. And there's just finally enough activity where I think a lot of that may happen because the pieces are not so far apart anymore. The things that can actually get done quickly, quickly I say in a couple of years, are doable, and they're sort of all coming together at the same time.
I mean, how do we repurpose our waterfront, make our waterfront more usable other than during the month of May, which obviously gets a lot of use during Memphis in May? Mud Island has enormous amounts of opportunities. I think we could be honest and say Mud Island's been pretty neglected. No fault of the RDC, no fault of the city. It is what it is. Things changed, and the city's been looking at a long time of what can we do with Mud Island, and of course the convention center's needed an overhaul for 20 years. Those things are all kind of falling into place. There is a momentum and not only a political will, but a civic will to really transform these missing pieces or these other pieces of the puzzle. And I think it's the Big River Crossing. I mean, we weren't even talking about the Big River Crossing 5 years ago. Now, 100,000 plus people a year running back and forth across there. And of course, the lighting feature, which is so wonderful for our skyline. you know, things are just happening, and they're happening at a, people talk about how fast things are transforming in Nashville. You know, things are transforming in Memphis and Shelby County at a pretty rapid pace too. And I know that announcement a couple weeks ago probably caught a lot of people by surprise. What, an aquarium? What, a Brooks Museum? You know, but no, this just didn't happen in the last couple of weeks. There's been lots of work that's been going on this for months and months and months. And there's just a lot of positive things coming together.
So are we going to see changes in some basic things like parking? Because if the Brooks goes on that block, it takes out a parking garage there. AutoZone has been talking for the longest time about possibly moving its parking somewhere else. So do the basics, along with these parts like the aquarium and the Brooks Museum possibly coming downtown, do the basic utilities, I'll call them, change downtown?
Definitely on parking. I spend a lot of my time talking about the puzzle pieces of parking, and a lot of work has gone into possibilities there. I do understand that there would be significant amount of parking under the museum, but we've looked at other options along the riverfront, but trying to preserve our riverfront and keep it off, you know, get it further off and explore other options as far as transportation to and from that. But certainly everyone is thinking about it. It won't be forgotten. People won't lose all their parking. AutoZone does need to figure out their needs and their timing, because that's a key component. But right now it is a puzzle that we're moving around as pieces firm up.
And there's also the Promenade property, which created some difficulties for at least one of the convention center hotel proposals, which was looking at the Mud Island parking garage property. Is that garage still in play for that at this point, or is it too difficult?
Yes, it's not. From my understanding, it's not in play anymore. There's several other sites people are looking at. There's plenty to pick from.
We've moved off of that. The potential legal battle to justify or not just, you know, to figure out if the city could go on top of it, already an existing parking garage with a hotel, is just too daunting of a task. We don't have that much time to, you know, that's a multi-year argument probably in the courts if you ever try to test that.
We have about 8 minutes left here. When people define a convention center hotel, because people see hotels downtown, they see new hotels going in, there's a difference in terms of what you mean when you talk about a convention center hotel.
We got 22,000 plus hotel rooms in the city of Memphis. We got 4,000 rooms in downtown Memphis. We only have 5 hotels. We have over 200 hotel properties. We only have 5 hotels that are 300 rooms or larger. Only 2 of those hotels are in downtown Memphis, the Peabody at 464 and the Sheraton at 600. To be a convention center hotel, number one, you have to be full service. You need to have room capacity of at least 500 rooms, 450 to 500 rooms. And you need to be basically either attached or right next, as close as you can be, to the convention facility. That basically leaves us with one property, the Sheraton, that's attached to the convention center, which it is our largest hotel at 600 rooms. We desperately need another big full-service hotel in downtown. I know a lot of hotel operators probably cringe when I say that, but the reality of it is there's probably a dozen hotel projects all in the 50 to 130 or 40 room range that are being kicked around and talked about, and some of them are even under construction. And those are going to be nice and they're going to be great, but they're not game changers. Game changers are big full-service hotels that can help drive massive amounts of business that actually helps other hotels.
Because in the theory there, or the business plan there, is that there are certain groups, associations, whatever, who won't go to a city unless they can take basically know they're going to get 200 rooms.
You got to have.
So they can't go in these nice new hotels that might be funded in part or supported in part by DMC or others. They just aren't going to attract a certain type of convention, a certain type of gathering.
If you got 1,000 people on peak, what we call peak, at the peak of a convention, and you need 1,000 rooms on a peak night, right now we probably will have to use a half a dozen or more hotels in downtown to fill that need. Whereas if you had another 500 or 600 room hotel next to the convention center, you could fill that need with 2 hotels and be attached to the convention center. The beauty of the Peabody at 464 rooms, they have 88,000 square feet of meeting space, so they're basically their own convention center. They're their own self-fulfilling group house property from that standpoint.
Let me come back to a couple things with 5 to 6 minutes left. We talk about transit. Trolleys are not under your purview. I'm sure you wish they were, but they're not. But what is the update, if you have any, on the trolleys going back online?
Sure. My understanding is they are testing and should have one up and running by the end of the year, and then the Main Street line within the next few months, then extending to the Riverfront Loop. And it'll be probably 18 months to 2 years before Madison's fully online.
And then let's go back to something you said, which, it's funny because we're talking about this, $550 million worth of ideas, the Brooks coming downtown. You're talking about convention centers and 400-room hotels. You mentioned urban art, and you mentioned murals and lighting underneath the overpass, which is probably a project it's certainly under, what, $100,000. I don't know what it's going to cost. It's probably, how much is it?
A little more than that, 150-ish.
Okay,
yeah.
but a much smaller scale. And it's interesting, we were at a seminar recently, and Tommy Pacello, who's been on the show and runs the Memphis Medical District, talked about, and has been involved with lots of other kind of revitalization of various areas. He talks about, and you talked about, the role of relatively simple things like urban art, like clear pathways, and well-lit underpasses to get from the Pinch to the convention center, vice versa.
Bike share.
Bike share. Those kinds of smaller scale things. I'm not saying they're tiny, but smaller scale things. Why are those important, and what more is on the horizon on that front?
Because it doesn't matter. We could do the convention center, build another hotel, but if people don't feel safe walking, one block, then it does nothing for our downtown. We need it to be connected and for it to be easy. Right now it's difficult to get from Main Street down to the river because of the grade. We're trying to improve that, and some of the plans show that, with bridges and various options to make that easier. And people just want to see vibrancy all along the way. And so we're trying at the DMC to minimize the gaps. So if there's some dead spots, we want to light it up and do some temporary art, or, do whatever we can to make those not barriers to connectivity. And
there was a time after 5 o'clock at night, because when you leave the convention center, if you wanted to walk to the Peabody, or you wanted to walk to Beale Street, down Main Street, or even ride the trolley, you got to realize that whole block of Government Plaza shuts down at 5 o'clock, so that becomes
City
dark.
Hall is, County
Then you got
Commission.
100 North Main, and you got that next block that's basically shut down, and then you have to really go 3 blocks before you get to where the Marriott Courtyard and that collection of hotels are, right there at that block, which a park on the other side, which of course the park's dark at night. So, there was a pretty big gap. If you were staying at the Sheraton, attending a convention at the convention center, and you said, let's walk down to, Grill 83, or wherever you wanted to go, Felicia Suzanne's. You go after dark, you're walking 2 or 3 blocks, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But you're walking 2 or 3 blocks where there's not a lot of activity and not a lot of energy. And we want to try to change it.
Not just of tourists, but of people who might live downtown,
Absolutely.
People who visit downtown,
Absolutely.
People who live out east or midtown.
So it's important to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
And the Pinch, there's been some strong businesses that have hung in there through this dark period of the Pinch. And so this underpass art hopefully will give people 2 options, go left or right out of the convention center and frequent those businesses as well. So we're excited about that.
A few minutes left. Bill.
So I want to go back to the Sheraton. The Sheraton has relatively recent new ownership there. Is there any possibility that they could do a 3rd tower that would get us part of the way to a room total that we need?
Possibly. I don't know if they could build a big enough tower that would get us, they'd have to basically add 500 or 600 rooms and become a 1,200 room hotel. I don't know if they have the capacity to do that. I will say this, Schulte Hospitality out of Louisville is the new owners of the Sheraton. This is the biggest hotel in their portfolio. They're very proud of it. They're investing money in it. They have plans to invest millions over the next few years. They also have the food service contract at the convention center, and they're doing a great job. They're coming out of the gates with a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and they are great partners so far, and we're just thrilled to have them.
Okay. A couple more things that we talked about. You talked about dark spots, places that are not popular right now. And I'll turn to you. I'm not sure who I should turn to, so I'm going to start with you. In terms of some of the blighted buildings, we talk about all this progress, but there's still 100 North Main is empty, the Steric is empty, and the areas around these buildings, because that's the way it tends to work, are empty. South of the Forum, there's a bunch of sort of vacant, not even surface parking lots near the Hotel Chiska and so on. What is, if anything, can the DMC do anything to compel property owners to get something done on those blighted and empty spaces?
We can, and we have a list of priority properties that we work down our available tools. And the highest ones, we are able to put pressure on the owners to do things. For example, the Benchmark Hotel, which is across from the Peabody, has been a skeleton for a while. They recently put up a banner showing their flag of the hotel that's going to be coming and showing that they're on target. That was because we said we're going to take legal action if you don't show us some progress towards finishing this project. So to the extent when we have to, we can do that, but we work at all different levels, and we often hire consultants to help us try to save properties that need a little.
Let me say this.
Just a minute left. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, let me just say this. In my 25 years downtown, I have never been meeting with so many hotel developers as I am today. I've never seen so much activity with those empty buildings, including the 100 North Main and Henry Grosvenor and his project with the Sterrett Building, which he's going to do something great there. I mean, things are happening, and downtown is being gobbled up right underneath by a lot of out-of-town money as well as some locals.
Well,
but there's a lot of great things happening.
You and I had a conversation about some of these numbers, which are huge numbers to me and you, and other cities are so much more expensive.
We're still a good deal.
Right.
We're still affordable, and we're still a good deal. And out-of-town people recognize that.
Yeah.
All right, that is all the time we have. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.